new players don't have to grind it all out immediately. They are going to have to kind of go through each combat profession. Oh my god. Alright guys, we got a fun video. I think we are going to jump in real quick. So this is the combat beta for Brighter Shores. Now, I just want to give a quick shout out to the team over at Fen. They have done a great job with this beta program. I just want to show you guys how this works. There's a little message that comes up here, you know, standard disclosures. But when you type the information here, what happens is you can click submit, and then it lets you copy over characters from your same Steam profile. So these are actually my main game characters, but I can make a clone of them. So if I want to like delete one of these characters, I could delete my, you know, beta slot 2, for example. And then actually, can we just do it here? Let's try this. We're going to try one. Yep, here we go. And now we're going to do another clone of my main. Let's see if we can get 2 Jimmy as a bots. I've never tried doing this. This one should have 20 gold. So what we're going to do is we'll stop the passive activity here. I should have about 20 gold. I want to just show you. It looks like we have about 35. So maybe it's a little bit more. What we're going to do is try and kind of work our way through here. There are no leaderboards. There's a lot to cover with the combat itself. So real quick, this is the new interface for combat. It starts with not only having, you know, your episode levels and your total level, but your total level is now under a global standard here next to your combat level. Now, disclaimer, we've heard in the past that they've considered merging other professions. It would be interesting to see additional global profession combinations. For example, all the gathering skills, right? Or maybe it's something down the road that they have plans with the crafting skills, which we know is coming in episode 6. There's going to be a change after the recent development that we're going to be able to craft only up to level 2,500 combat. I'm only at 967 after what will be the transition in the beta, unless if I go grind out more combat levels. Now, you guys, what is happening? You can see there's only 3 professions, 4 and 3 in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. So this 4-3-4-3 is previously 5-4-5-4. So all 4 combat professions are gone. For each episode, they are now combined into one giant profession here, which literally is scaling vertically all the way to level 2,000. We assume that once episode 5 comes out, this will go up to 2,500. And yeah, what's different about this is it looks like they took kind of the average gaps and they made some distance between them. You'll see that I'm not quite at level 1,000 yet, but we're going to go ahead and just check out the capes real quick because I kind of got to show them off. It's not a huge deal, but they made a new combat cape. I'll just go ahead and buy a few of them so you can see. There's a few changes with scaling and things like that I'd like to get into in this video. We'll get to those in just a moment. But you can see that there are 7 combat capes here. So if I go ahead and buy each one, they are not super expensive, but I can show you kind of the progression that's going to happen as you level through. 6 gold, 8 gold, and then 9 gold. So we burn quite a bit of money. But of course, this is just beta money, so we don't have to worry about actually losing it. Now, the first cape for combat, you can see it has this little different look here. It's like a giant, what seems to be a mace. I believe these are class specific. You could kind of see different ones here, but it looks kind of cool. I mean, it's a great hammer, obviously, but you can see it has like a second coloring. So if I literally just have this one cape on, you can see it kind of evolves through, and I assume it's going to be turning gold later. I don't have the full image, but this is the best that I have. So it's kind of like a cool, you know, color pattern where you can see like, oh man, that guy has a gold cape. As the combat merge happens, you'll see that people who've only grinded one combat profession, they're going to only have capes that look like this, right? They're not going to be fully decked out. But there's a people out there who already have a few 500 combats. Those guys might have like a gold layering. We really have no idea what that's going to look like, but I'm kind of excited to see how that all transfers through. Now, talking about the transition specifically, this is probably one of the cooler parts of the whole idea. So for reference, guys, I had, before this change, level 500 guard, and my professions in scout, minefighter, and watchperson were about 37, 20, and 54. Now, that means that I had something like maybe 100, 110 levels of combat outside of guard, but they were all pre-200 levels. But the 500 that I had in guard is kind of scaled higher because those 300 levels after 200 are worth more. So the scaling concept and how it kind of transitions over is going to be a little bit shocking for people. The cool part that everyone kind of needs to see is that my gear previously was at level 500, and all of it is transferred over to exactly my combat level, which is 967. So the higher you can get your combat, the more you're going to be able to bring your gear in at a higher threshold. So if you have you know, all of your stats are at 500 and your last one's at like 450, you'll probably transfer over to like, I would think something like, you know, 1,900 and maybe even like 60 or so in the total combat level. And those last 40 levels, you know, your gear will transfer over. But in theory, if someone had all 500s and they had already farmed epics in just one of the episodes, they would have a full set of level 2000 epic gear. This is really cool, but unfortunately, I don't think any single player has got 500 in every single profession yet. My guess is that this cape turns gold, right, like a bronze, silver, gold, but I'm not entirely sure. We can see some beta people running around here. But yeah, the actual combat itself is almost identical. Everything in Hopeport, I believe, we can actually like kind of look to see like what our highest level thing is. There's no real way to filter this list by like the episode, but you can see it's kind of scaled pretty clearly. So unironically, the highest level thing I can fight is an 859 carnivorous plant. Now, I've already killed carnivorous plants, so there are like higher tiers that I'll get in Hopeport. So I kind of misunderstood this before when I was in my stream yesterday, but it looks like the answer to the question is that we will be able to go back to Hopeport as a 500 guard and actually keep grinding stuff in Hopeport again. There's only like what seems to be one round for me. Sorry, 2 rounds it looks like. There's a second one up in the 1500s. And then the one before that is around the mid 1100s. So I really won't be going back to Hopeport until I grind a bunch of stuff here. But we did some sampling on stream yesterday. As you guys can see, like we have this money coming in at like a certain rate. A lot of the kills I was getting were around like 17, 18 silver a kill, versus like, you know, what I was seeing closer to like 25 to 27. Now, what that means is that the amount of money that we're going to be making should be scaled better overall, because my alternative in the old world, right, was that after I hit 500 guard, I would have to restart a new combat profession at level, you know, 20 or 50, and I would be making something like maybe 300 to 500 silver an hour, right? Now, this change basically makes it so that because I did my 500 guard, I'm actually going to go straight into other combat professions at a decent money level. But on the flip side, I won't be able to grind with my 500 guard anymore and make something like 3 to 4 gold an hour. So farming money right now with combat is actually somewhat viable. Of course, Merchant Leatherworker still is kind of king, and I expect it to be in that same rank 1 moneymaker position after this update goes live. But that being said, you should get more money from combat overall, and there's a much larger grind from combat. My guess, to be completely clear, is that from all 4 combat professions, you should get the same amount of money going from 0 to 2,000. I think that's how they've based this, as if you had gone from 0 to 500 in each profession. It's just kind of averaged out and then smoothened on a curve, so that at 967, my money that I make is less, but I'm also making it all over the map. So I don't have to go through those like really bad money rates, but instead I'm going to be making more money. So what this actually what it actually means, right, is that I'm going to be making more money than I would have if this update hadn't gone live, because I've already made very good money getting 1 skill to 500 guard, and then doing this again should be pretty smooth as an experience for me. So what this means for me personally, you know, I'm probably going to be grinding all my combat professions after I finish kind of the Hopeport race. We are going to lose some ranks, guys. So what happens with the rest of these episodes is very interesting. I'm dropping to 1385. So this is going to cap at 2000, right? But before, like, if you look at a percentage, right, if we were to take a calculator and go, okay, well, he was at 1885 out of 2500. So I was 75% of the way done. Now, if we look at it, I am only about 69, 70%. So we actually have like more of a grind to do in terms of like how much progress we feel. And some of the people on the leaderboard, like Clayton, or even I think like Shore Central, some of these guys who hadn't grinded super far on combat are definitely just going to instantly kind of overtake us. Because we've put so much time into grinding alchemy with guard, we're really just trying to make sure we can get that top 20 alch spot. And I've made this clear on stream, but just so everyone knows, I'm trying to get like a single digit rank now for Hopeport. We have like a bunch of stuff that we're working through, and I think that this is like my comfort position for the game, because I don't want to be actively fishing. I think it's actually like a waste of my time considering how good ventures are. We know that you're getting around 1 million per oyster node with like I think a level 30 enchantment. I'm getting around that 950,000 with like a level 10 or so. That's each, right? So every single day I log in, I can collect 2 million Fisher XP, right? And that's just incredible, and I want that to last as long as possible, especially if I get into Watch Person Detective or even try go in combat elsewhere. And I don't want to get rid of my fishing thing just yet. So what I'm probably going to be doing is a lot of KP on Chef. We'll be doing kind of passive Chef. Passive is not the right word here. I'd actually say AFK Chef, because I would like to be grinding combat somewhat semi-active. And then when I'm like, eating a meal or waking up, going to sleep, I might just start like some, veggies. We'll figure out like exactly what like the cooldown process is. But I'd like to make casual gains on Chef while getting complete passive fishing. And then we'll see kind of how many people are really pushing through Hopeport. The competition might get a little bit spicier since some people with guard are kind of getting wiped out of the top part of the race there. But we know, like, from the leaderboard perspective, outside of the beta, right, Small's already got rank 1, Mobo is locked in 2, and Zohan is in 3rd position, now Omega's in 4th. So we're in 5th place now, but I expect to jump immediately to about 7th to 8th. We're going to see if we can kind of hold that 9th spot there. I do have a pretty good foundation considering we're kind of done with alchemy. But guys, I want to get into Stonemason. It's very important for me to get into Stonemason before episode 5 drops. We only need to get, about to level 400 or 500 by the time it comes out in order to be ready to make weapons all the way to the end of that combat race. So yeah, we'll see how it actually works out if people are going to prep a bunch of epic gear. I've already got some level 500 epics. Sorry, level 5. Well, I have got 500 epics. We just got our 4th yesterday. But I've got many 500, rare broadswords and all these things that might be useful for crafting. Unfortunately, because of our combat level, it's not going to transfer over well. So in large, from a gear perspective, crafting is getting a pretty big buff. So people who have pushed through a crafting skill are going to see, they're going to be able to make combat gear for pretty much everything all the way at level 400 instead of what would have been level 500. So that's like almost a 20% buff to the whole crafting set of professions. Now, the other thing I want to mention here, they made some other changes with the game that I'm not going to dive as deep into, with things like the Enchantress being moved, or now called the Infusionist, into episode 3. We kind of talked about that in our previous video. Instead, what we're going to focus on is the combat passive tree. Now, I had previously grinded all but 1 point out of guard for the passive. Now, this is crazy because I had, 106 points. I think this is the identical number of KP I've put into combat, but my 106 points is no longer covering the mileage that I need for combat. And you guys will see this. There's actually a huge drop off here. I believe that in order to keep up with where we are, there you go. You can see that we need 107 for a level 642 monster. So the hardest thing we can fight right now is this Man-O Combat Jellyfish. This is the highest thing in Hopeport here. After the Wildman, you can see that we actually need more KP here. So what we would like to be fighting, is a 967, because that's what our combat level is. So if we scroll all the way down to 965, the sneaky kobold, I am a surprising 86 points short of being able to fight the thing that's best for my level. That's 86 knowledge points. We're talking about 5 points an hour. That's like 16 hours of grinding at 5 KP per hour, even more, right? 17. And that's like just to get up to speed with our combat. Now, what this means for me particularly is that I have 2 alts, right? That I was trying to get through guard to 500 because I calculated it would only take so long to get them to 500 guard. But this is kind of getting flipped on its head because now these guys are going to have to keep pushing or they're going to get 50% nerfed because of the combat squish, right? This merge is making it so that passive alts are going to be making less money because they're going to get hit with that nerf unless if they keep up, which means constant upkeep every single episode all the way to max. Now, what I don't know is if once episode 5 comes out, are we going to see money scaling? These are big questions. And I would like to know some rough idea of the answer to this, like about the money part. But I think my best bet is that we'll be submitting some information just to see and make sure, that I think they have an idea of what they're trying to do. But it seems like they are kind of nerfing the passive XP and passive income as well because of it. And I think that's probably reasonable. When I went to my alt, you guys, the lowest passive starts, I believe, on our level 80 character, we're missing like 10 KP. So the idea makes sense, right? If you have a bunch of skills being mixed together, you're going to have like more passives. So that they've taken a little bit of a rework on this. My basic guess is that there are more passives to unlock now, and I think this is because combat generates so much KP, but I'm not entirely sure, and I really believe the fairest way to do this is actually to refund all 106 points that I had in combat, and then kind of let us decide if that's actually what we want to do, because when we previously made that investment, it wasn't done at such like an indebted position, right? I really don't know how to communicate that, so I would hope that that kind of gets cleared up. 536 points is a lot more than like the 410 previously. So about 20% more passives being kind of interjected here. Either that or they get rid of the 50% penalty, right? I think that would be incredible. But we did try testing some of these and we were not getting good money. I think it was something like 18 copper per with our 106 versus like, it's almost like 10 times worse before. So anyway, that kind of sums up the changes, guys. My overall feel is that this is a very good step in the right direction for Brighter Shores. It's not going to fix any of the problems problems that we see with itemization, or things that we hope to see in terms of content, like bosses, dungeons, or even raids, and lots of good party content. Those things I think could be built on this system. This is going to be more like your World of Warcraft. An expansion comes out and you get 10 more levels type of thing. Not too sure how I feel about that. The only bright side is that new players don't have to, grind it all out immediately. They are going to have to kind of go through each combat profession to kind of get prepped for the next one. I'd like to see lots of like soft requirements. Hopefully they can kind of like, venture in, might be dangerous type of thing. But yeah, that's going to kind of sum up the video, the changes for the beta. We don't actually see the skill tree, guys, so that's not going to be something we mention here. But hopefully this gives you kind of a picture of what's to come and my overall feelings on the subject. I will be, as I said, grinding out the rest of my alchemy. We got 63 levels to go. Once the alchemy's done, we are going to probably pivot, get our cooking to 217, and then kind of as we have passive time, we'll be working on that. But I'm hoping to get our Stonemason up and then break into episode 4. We've got the crime den detectives, the detective skill to work on, and hopefully we can work on our combat skills as well. Any combat gains that we get are going to be transferred over to the updated rework. So that means if I was to go out and grind, say 200-300 more combat levels, those transfer over. We might turn this 500 2H into something higher, right? Like it would basically get moved over at, a better rate. So it's interesting because if I'm grinding other places, it's going to kind of raise the floor. But at the same time, if I just grinded in the rework, I would get to start with a really good weapon at the hardest thing possible. So some trade-offs that we have to kind of think through here. But yeah, I am looking forward to this change. I think it's just going to be good for the game. It'll be great for new players. And overall, I feel pretty positive about the change. Hoping to see more updates come after this that help the game grow and prosper. But lots of good things happening behind the scenes, guys. I've heard many cool things that are being worked on. We hope to get some more content out here soon about those changes as we hear about them. But that's going to be it for this one, guys. Have a great day. Thanks for hanging out.